One of the things that we say around here is like our entire industry is built around things not going the way they were supposed to. If
Right.
everything went the way it was supposed to, we wouldn't have a
Right.
career. So that stuff is going to happen. And the goal is that it's not, more detrimental than what we're going to be able to resolve.
Right.
And we run into things that are like, you know, but we try to make sure the guys know that like, hey, I would rather you make an aggressive mistake than, not.
Yeah,
And we learn
that's
from
right.
those things and we kind of navigate that stuff together. Hey everyone, welcome to Business Aspirin. I'm your host, Clint Junell, podcast where we try to keep you from banging your head against the wall and provide aspirin to numb the pain if you do that. Today we have with us our friend and Job-Dox friend, Chad Sheehan,
Yeah.
out of Gillette, Wyoming with WCC Restoration, or Sheehan, if his
Yeah.
sister's around, as I understand.
Yeah.
But it's Chad Sheehan. Chad, man, I appreciate you being on, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I love that you reached out, and we love Job-Dox for that
Awesome.
plug, because I'm a guy that needs that, and
Yeah.
we love it.
Well, awesome. So I appreciate that, and we won't have Tyler edit that out, even though it's not a Job-Dox commercial.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll
yeah.
just keep
No,
it in.
but
We'll just roll with it,
but if
right?
you talk about people not having headaches in business, I can tell you that I had that headache of writing things down and having a lot of paper stuff until I hired a guy that could implement it, because I'm not the guy that could implement
Sure.
software. So he implemented it, and then we've ran with this ever since. And so it is a great. You talk about not wanting to bang your head against the wall. At least get a program.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. It's funny. We had a guy last week that we recorded, HVAC guy. He's kind of a pricing guy. And the guy he bought the business from, it's up in the Denver metro area. And the guy he
Okay.
bought the business from handed him a price list on a sheet of paper. And then like, this is your price list. And he was like, have you ever lost this? And he was like, well, one time I left it up in Winter Park and had to drive back to Winter Park to get my price list. I'm like, the
Man,
pain
that's
for.
brutal. Yeah.
So let's talk about Chad a little bit.
Yep.
Who is Chad and how'd you get into restoration?
Okay. Well, so I've been an entrepreneur most all my life. So it started out young, went to barber school, was a barber for 10, 12 years. During that time, owned a power washing company, owned a stone sign and monument company. So I've just been the sickness of entrepreneurship my whole life. Except for 4 years, I had a wife or have a wife that had two open heart surgeries, and with insurance and just things, I went to work in the oil field for 4 years and learned a lot, and then was thankful that I could start something up myself again to create the culture I was more accustomed to. And so that's who I am. I am a very small compared to mitigation companies. We don't do rebuild, but my passion is my faith. So I get to go speak at different events like clean comedy for like corporate or church events. I will fill the pulpit at times and give a sermon. And so my real passion, that's my real passion, and this gets to fund my ministry. So I was one of those that early on, because of all the other businesses, I couldn't have it built around me. So
You want to be
that's
free to
just
do what you were doing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, and then in that case, and we'll get back to that, in that case, you've built a business successfully so that you're free to go do the things that you want to be able to do. And that's, dude, I think that's the
That's the
dream, right?
goal.
That's the
Yeah,
goal
right.
for everybody.
Yeah,
So we
right,
certainly want to talk about that.
right.
But, as a Christian myself, I'm kudos to being able to go do those things and talk about your faith and finding the passion. I tell people all the time, regarding both businesses, but primarily the
Sure.
restoration side. It's like this is not Mr. Restore is not my ministry. It
Right,
affords me the chance to do ministry, and yes, there's
right.
some ministry that takes place inside, but
Hmm.
that's not what it is. This is a for-profit business with
Yep.
the goal of being able to do the things that I'm passionate about, and that's exactly what we do. It allows me the opportunity to do that, and that's
Yeah.
really great for you to do.
And I'm fortunate because I've had a wife that backed me for, I mean, we have been married 29 years. We have two kids. The youngest one just graduated and is off in college and doing her thing, or she's actually going to cosmetology school, and her boyfriend's going to a tech college. Yeah, so that's just kind of where we're at. And in our business and our faith, you know, we're very fortunate. We have a men's Bible study at 6 a.m. at both of our locations. Our guys don't have to go to them. When we were bigger, we had a few that didn't, but they usually usually come around and 6 a.m. They're not getting paid to come to that Friday mornings, and we feed them afterwards, and we fellowship. And then there's people from the community that have joined off and on throughout the years. My real passion is that growing a man into a better man, and having him represent the company like we all want. Right? We all want that, but we focus a lot of times on, I can't believe you drove the truck into that pole. And so I go, well, I haven't driven a truck into a pole, but I've dented a truck before. So instead of focusing on that, we focus on character building traits that make them just a better person, and then they represent the company the way we want, and then all those other things just happen because it's life and business.
Sure. Let's talk about that then. Let's dig into the fact that your business is built around your faith, which leads to the desire to improve the quality of the character and life of the person
Sure.
that works with you. Because ultimately, your position was that's going to help my business. And
Yeah.
how's it worked out? Like, what?
It,
How do you get there? How do you wrap your head around? It's like the Chick-fil-A model, right? It's like we're going to do this. We're going to be passionate about Hobby Lobby. We're going to be passionate about it. We're
yeah.
going to stand our ground. And in doing that, we're going to make some decisions along the way that say, this is who we are. This is what we do. What are the decisions? Where do they come from? How do you get there? Do you, Wayne?
Well, I think your Christian walk, I think your business walk, it's by doing the little things over and over and over until they become who you are. So it doesn't happen overnight. It's been a lot of trial and error, like everything else. But I see these guys come out, and my passion from being a barber for that many years and hearing the problems and sitting with a guy. I mean, I have a guy that used to come to me that was worth, I mean, I think he had built a 28,000 square foot home. I think he sold a business for 800 million, and he shot himself. And so I got to sit with people that it wasn't about the job, it wasn't around business. So I see these people come in, and they come across cocky, or they're broken. We hire a lot of guys that have come out of treatment and things, and they need those tools because they've never been told what it looks like to be a man. Like, is it when I had sex, when I had drugs, when I drank my first beer? So to be able to tell a guy and put a kind of a game plan together, and it's all based off of biblical principles, but it applies to everybody in that sense. I mean, I always tell those Bible study guys, I mean, there's guys that come there that don't believe, but they're good principles. They're be a better husband, be intentional. Now, God says to treat your wife like God did the church, but treat your wife good, and you'll have the backbone. It's just those kind of things. So we've
And that
seen,
applies whether you're a Christian or not. That's just
yeah,
good,
yeah, it's just good
common
stuff.
grace things, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
just this is smart. Like,
yeah,
don't be mean to
right.
your wife and life goes better.
And then
Believe
we
it or not.
haven't had the employee issues. I mean, yes, can we be shorthanded? Yes. But even when we had a cleaning company, I mean, 33 employees that are on the lower pay scale because the world doesn't see them as being as valued as somebody doing another job. They work just as hard, they deserve just as much, but we told them, you make the difference. So when somebody comes in their office that day, you can make or break their day, because if you didn't do a good job, so you're not just cleaning at night, you're a person. And so you start doing that, and we had cleaners with us 7 years, 8 years. I mean, we just didn't have the employee issues that I heard from behind the chair when I was barbering. I heard all these guys all the time talk about, most of them end up learning to either hate their employees or hating customers. I heard it all the time. There's frustration with that. And I'm like, I will never get to where I don't appreciate the both. But the employees out there are working hard. Yes, there might be mistakes, but they're working hard. And so it just comes at an angle, and then we don't have to fight some of the things that these other guys talk about. I don't know if they talk about it on here, but I hear it all the time. Like, man, I can't believe my guy did this. And I had a guy tell me that I had to separate my faith and my business. And he told me that what he does is, like, if a guy, when he hires them, and he has a lot of employee problems, but he says, when I hire him, I tell him, this is my piece of equipment. If you scratch my truck, I'm going to come scratch yours. If you dent my building, I'm going to dent yours. And I go, and you have employee problems? That's
Weird.
really weird.
Weird.
But so some of it's a basic concept of just valuing that person, kind of love the person like yourself. And then it's served us well.
Yeah, sure. So how do you go about finding your people? Where are you finding the people that you're bringing in? Are you aligned when they get there, or do they align with you? I mean, you previously have said some of them aren't believers, some of them come around.
Good.
So just talk about how do you go? I mean, your market's not very big. Like
No,
you're not in a
no.
big market. So let's talk about that.
So it's weird how they come from different places. We always put stuff out on Indeed. You know, you spend the 400 or 500 bucks and whatever. But this last one we hired was a kid that just got out of halfway house. He was working at a quick shop. I would go in there just to talk to this kid. I mean, he was a heroin addict. He did this, so I just built the relationship before and just would, and didn't really mention anything other than, do you have a church or would you like to join our Bible study? And we built this relationship, and he went to several different jobs, and I'd see him around town, and then one day I put it on Indeed, and I hadn't talked to the guy in probably 3 4 months, and I see his name come up, and I'm like, "Hey, Eric, is this you, man?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, come talk to me." And so I believe it's a lot of it is it's just a God thing, putting somebody in front of me and then giving a guy a chance most of the time. And some of my best guys, my ops manager from Gillette, I joke about, I bet my ops manager has more felonies than your ops manager. You know, in some places, just that's like voodoo
Oh my
stuff. They're
gosh.
just like, yeah, you wouldn't let him in. I would. His wife has a similar story. She
Yeah.
runs our books.
Yeah.
They could do whatever they want. And so when they say, well, you would trust him in there, I trust him with my business.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and have I got burned in the past? Absolutely. But that's never going to stop me
Yeah, but
from
that
that.
that comes from your faith. That's like, is the
Yeah.
gospel true or not true, right?
Right. Yeah.
Are
That's
people
right.
the same from now on, or do they have a chance to be redeemed and I'll be better?
Yep.
But a lot of people aren't going to agree with that.
Nope.
So, what would you say to those that are like, I mean, you're having to deal with it now. Like, what do you say to those
Yeah.
people where it's like,
Yeah.
I absolutely can't figure out how to let go of that and trust somebody?
Hmm.
How do you reconcile that in your head to bring them into your? I know how you do it, but like tell the rest
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
world how does this occur?
So I tell people that, we're surrounded by the things we start believing things. And so if that's not working out for you, then you have to change that. So, and how do you do that? You do it by a little bit of truth at a time to change, or a little bit of info that is different that becomes your truth. And so a lot of times people, even in like a Christian walk, I said the prayer, man, things haven't changed for me. I've been grinding this out for a long time, and I'm frustrated, and then they walk away from the faith. Well, it's no different than in business. Man, I hired this guy. I had a guy call me yesterday. I'm mismeasuring windows. He's a window guy, and I met him a long time ago, but he calls me. He's New Mexico, I think, but he calls me. We keep doing this, we keep doing that. Should I give up on this? And I'm like, well, no, as long as you're learning from each thing, put those into practice and then just become a different person. It doesn't happen overnight. So that's how I walk through most of them. It's like, first of the time, by the time God puts them in my life, I'm like, oh, you're already ready because you're sick and tired of what isn't working. And so then it's not easy because change is hard. It's hard, relatable, because guess what I did yesterday? Guess what I thought 15 minutes ago? And I just have learned over time to filter it through a biblical truth versus what Chad thinks is cool or truth.
Yeah.
And so, and that's just a long process, but you have to surround yourself by those people rather than going to these people that are big hoorah guys, and they tell you and they get you amped, but then it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
So do the hard things.
I'm so prone to try to give somebody else a chance, right?
Yeah.
I want those guys that everybody thinks is not going to be valuable. And
Yep.
sometimes, like, they're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes they still get in their own way. But I think we're called to try to give them the chance. There's some good God winks that occur in some of those. And we've had guys
Yeah,
that
yeah.
have come in and done some good things and then thought they were going to go on their own and do something else. And they've even come back because it's
Yeah.
like, okay. And I think that, I mean, like, from your perspective, which kind of applies to me, it sounds kind of arrogant saying in my end, like, just be a good human, right?
Yeah,
Like, treat
right.
treat
Yeah.
people well and try to do right and try to be a good human. Now, do I do that all the time?
No. Yeah, yeah,
No,
no.
because I'm fallible just like anybody else. And
Yeah,
sometimes
right.
I'm going to lose my shit on somebody.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's
yep,
the wheels came off and I'm pissed off and mad about this.
yep,
But
yeah,
by and large, I think my team knows I can be aggressive but that are
Sure.
trying to do right by them and care for them. And so I appreciate
Hmm.
you saying those things. What are some challenges you've run into that you've had to try to overcome operating this way?
On what?
Just trying to operate your business
Okay.
with the faith-based mindset. Like, what are some things that you've run into? Because clearly there are some of the people that are listening to this podcast that are faith people. There's some that
Sure.
aren't. Some people be
Right.
like, I'm gonna stop this one as soon as we start having this conversation, and that's okay.
Right.
But those that are like,
Yeah.
especially following last week and the barrage
Right.
of social media that's now like very adamant about, all right, we're gonna stand up. There are going to
Sure.
be business owners that are going to listen to this and they're going to go, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah.
And they're going to want to do it, but they're going to be there's different. You're going to butt your head against the wall differently now if you do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what are some things that you've experienced operating this way that I mean, and you may not have the perspective to be able to go, this is different than how a normal business person does it, but let's talk
Right.
about the problems and let's navigate some of it.
Well, first of all, we do a reset kind of in the morning. We do a morning meeting. We watch Reach TV for the training, so our guys are learning that every single morning. And then we have a meeting, and then we end it with praying for the people that we're going to go serve. So I think some of it just sets that mindset. Doesn't have to be this long, lengthy. You don't have to know how to pray. I mean, it's like, Lord, let them see you in us, and Lord, let us actually do the job right. And so and be with these people, right? And let us love them. And so that just kind of sets the tone for it. But operationally, I mean, it's hard. You're working with people, right? And things happen. And so then you just have to remember, like you almost have to remember the grace you're given. I love telling the story of if somebody, most guys at Bible study at one time or another will talk about road rage, traffic. Man, these guys drive like idiots, right? And I go, okay, but why is it that we drive around and the guy cuts us off or he pulls too close or he races around us and we're always saying that guy's an idiot? But the second we pull out in front of somebody, we're like, man, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And we give ourselves that pass, like, well, I didn't see him. Or we even get mad at sometimes and go, man, I didn't see you, man. I don't know why you're honking. And, I'm like, well, yeah, but now you're the idiot, but you don't give that grace to somebody else. So I think that living a life like that operationally, but there's the other thing that people forget after they start making it. It's tough starting out. It's tough, and you have to grind out and you do things. But because I remember my faith being challenged, like scratching a wood floor, um, pulling out a fridge on a move out clean, and my gal came to me and says, "Hey, we just scratched this floor." And it was like a $600 move out clean. It was $800 to replace the floor. We didn't have the money. And I just like, but we have to do the right thing. I don't forget when it was harder than it is right now. And I would just beg for people not to forget that their employees are at a wage that I wouldn't want to live on. And it's tough. I never look at it as like, man, I'm paying you 80 grand a year. I can't believe you. I'm like, I remember having to live on that. I remember having to live on a lot less, but I never take it to like, I've given them some, and they've worked their tail off for it. So
Sure.
some of those are just the things of just a perspective change of going, man, quit acting like you're doing them a favor by paying them 100 grand a year. I mean, man, they're out there working their tail off, and you remember what it was like starting out when you couldn't pay it, or I mean, there was lots of times we had to borrow money for payroll before the checks came in, and I mean, I won't forget what that feels like. But all too often, guys start buying the boats, buying the stuff, and then they're just like, it's easy. And I'm guilty. I mean, I've got a lot of nice things, but I hope to never take that for granted. Like, oh, I've earned it. I was the one that took the risk. That's what you learn it from these other things. Well, how's that working out for you? You
Yeah.
end up bitter. You end up thinking like entitled. You're not a humble servant of going, man, I am the luckiest guy in the world that I'm in the position I'm in. And it's because you guys are going out there and busting your tail every day and doing this. And I really appreciate you guys. I mean, it's just a heart.
Yeah, it's so good to hear, right? Like
Yeah.
it's when like you have a purpose. And
Yeah.
because of your purpose, you're trying to operate in a different vein than a lot of these guys. But what do you say to I don't know if it was a friend or just somebody you knew, that let's say your friend that's like, I got to separate these two things, listens to
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
podcast, and he's listening to what we're saying, and he's like, all right, I want to make that change.
Yeah.
How does someone who has operated as a normal business owner and
Yep.
been a little belligerent and been a little bit
Sure.
rough, how would you say you make that pivot?
Yeah, I would say you gather them up and say, "Hey guys, I had a heart change, whether or not it's because of Charlie Kirk, whether or not it's because of encounter with Jesus that you've had, whether or not it's that you're finally listening to that Holy Spirit. I don't, I'm built different. I had a pastor ask me years ago, Chad, how come you're so bold in your faith? I says, as a Christian and being so thankful of him loving me when I'm so unlovable, I can't imagine the gift that he's given me that I can't be bold. So I'm different that way. But how does it start? You go to those guys and say, "Hey guys, this is what we're going to work towards. And if you don't like it, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to pray at my morning meeting. And I'm just going to start there. And you're going to see me fail as a man or a woman, whoever the owner is. You're going to see me fail at that. But I want you to know that first of all, it's okay for you to be able to come to me and say, "Hey, you say you want to be this guy, but you haven't changed this." And I'm just going to open up to that and please help me change because I want to. Years ago in the barber shop, I was cutting hair and there was a bunch of old dudes in there and they were talking about what church they went to. Now, I read my Bible almost every day. I was going to church. I was doing all those things. And one of the guys, I said, "Well, you guys didn't ask me what church I went to." And one of the guys says, "Well, the way you talk, I'm surprised you go to church." And it was a moment that I'm going, I know I didn't tell the really bad story jokes. I know I didn't drop the F-bomb, but there was something that I never wanted to happen again. I wanted to be this light. I wanted them to see Jesus instead of Chad because I was young and it was going to be more about me. But a lot of it is just humbling yourself to a place that you become the humble servant of going, "Okay, guys, this is going to look different and I'm going to mess it up 1,000 times because that's the reality." And I think that's the first start is, are you willing to humble yourself? Because if you're not, I mean, good luck.
Yep, sure.
And then are you willing to actually put some things in the hands of your people that you work with to be able to call you out and for you to be able to start responding in a different way? And it's going to be baby steps. First time your manager says, "Hey, I don't think we treated that guy or that gal right," and you're going, "Well, I don't have the money to do this," and you're like, "Okay, that's my first response, right? That's my human. Okay, now, okay, what would God do? Yeah, I got to do the right thing. I don't know how I'm going to do this." And you just start those a little bit more today, a little bit more tomorrow.
Let me ask you this, because you
Yep,
say do the right thing, and I agree to do
yep,
the right thing.
yep. Hmm.
There are times when the right thing is not what the customer's asking for.
Oh, absolutely.
And so from my, you can have your opinion however you have it, Chad. But from my
Yep,
perspective on that, it's like do the right thing, yes, but don't let someone take advantage of you because of your faith. That this is well, you're supposed to do this. I stand my ground on that. And sometimes my guys look at me like, whoa,
yep,
whoa, whoa, right? Like,
yep,
uh,
yep,
and that's hard. It's tough, man. It's
yep,
tough to exhibit and balance keeping your faith in the business and
yep.
operating at a level that allows you to run a successful business without somebody trying to take advantage of it. Because a lot of times they don't underestimate my kindness for weakness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Nope, I agree.
it's a tough thing to navigate at times.
Oh, and I've had my own daughter say that. I mean, she says she was there one day when somebody was like, "Chad, you're so nice," and I go, "Well, that's God speaking." I says, "Ask my daughter." My daughter goes, "Oh no, that guy's not over crying in a corner because that's my dad." I mean,
Yeah.
I can get, but I just try not to exhibit that. We try to be fair. Like it's not wrong to fire somebody. I
Yeah.
mean, cry, I mean, give them, but is it our fault that he wasn't trained properly? Is it our fault? Really examine. Or was I fair with my write-ups? Was I fair with this? And then, hey, we're not a fit. Doesn't make you a
Yeah.
bad person. Same with customers, adjusters. I've been called. My wife one day was just like, "Get him," because this guy kept calling me a cowboy contractor. I said, "Man, I'm from Wyoming, cowboy country." I said, "Man, that's like an honor to me.
Yeah.
So you think you're bullying me around?" Um, and so no, I'm not saying the right thing for me is like most of us have a gut feeling of what's right, and that can get skewed a little bit, but if your guy screws up something, you go make it right. I mean, it's
Oh yeah,
not
for
on
sure.
like laying down. Yeah, it's
For
not a
sure.
laying down thing for sure, but so I'm glad you clarified that because
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's not a
I don't
weakness.
want somebody to hear that, well, because of your faith, that you just,
Yeah,
whatever they want, they're going to get. And that's not the reality.
yeah,
I didn't think that was with
no,
you guys, but certainly not with us.
No.
The Bible says very specifically, when in business be men. And
Yeah,
that's what we're going to
that's
do.
right.
We're going to stand our ground on things that are not true and not right. One of the things that conversation brought up, so we do trait profiling here, do some of those different tests and do some of those things. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting because the way God has wired me, sans Jesus, I'm not a very good person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm rough and belligerent and
Sure.
demanding and all those things. And like, I literally have to keep that in mind at times because
Hmm.
they're, especially adjusters, or sometimes they're really pleasant customers
Yeah,
that
right.
flip that switch sometimes. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, wait,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
literally have
that's
to
right.
check it up. And I think that's
Yeah.
okay too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not ideal. Ideally,
Sure.
I could, but Jesus flipped over tables.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there are things that doesn't require you to be soft about and
Right.
still be a man about and
Yep.
run your business and still do it in a way that loves people radically.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, and I've done I mean, we've had to go after people for not paying. I mean, I had a gal, I let her husband go because he just didn't show up to work very often, and we tried to work through it and tell him that, hey, this is happening, and then we let him go, and she threw that whole thing at, you guys call yourself the WCC family, and you call yourself a Christian. And I said, well, you have obligations. That's a biblical principle to follow through with what you say, be a man of your word. So, I mean, so you can throw those at me. And I said, and just so you know, the WCC family thing, I didn't start. My guys started that. I mean, we call each other. I mean, they bought the signs, they bought things, they started the text back and forth with the WCC family. I didn't start that. So you can say what you want. My own family at different times, all of us have that family member. They're not really a part of your family because of the stupid stuff they're doing. That doesn't mean that you're not a godly guy or that you're not a family person. No, that's on you. And so, you know, that stuff's been thrown in my face, lawsuits like, how do you do that? Well, I'm not eating 40 grand on this. Well,
Right.
you call yourself a Christian. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how that seems to be
Yeah.
the trump card they try to use, right?
Yeah. No, but I'm the different than you. So like you probably have like a more like a type A personality or and I've got that as far as like business sense, but I need that driver. So in a disc, we use a
Yeah.
disc, and
Yeah.
I need that D. I'm an influencer and I'm stable.
Yeah.
So for me, what sounds harsh sometimes is what those guys need. So I all my leadership positions are that. And then we have a relationship to where I can kind of calm them down, but then they can go get the stuff done. So yeah, we use those tools
Yeah.
too, because you
Because
have
it's
to know
important.
what you're
It's
not.
important to know who you are and who they are
Yeah,
so that everybody knows how to work together. And it's great to
yeah.
explain that. It's just different. Is there anything that in owning and operating your restoration business, your home service business, that has surprised you?
I mean, I would have to go back because I've been doing this for so long, 30 years, you know, that I've been, and it's different businesses. I'm surprised most when I got into the restoration business that a entity called insurance could dictate prices. You know, it's always been free market to where like you know what the market will bear, right? And so like as a barber, I was always on the highest end of barber haircutting, but I was doing 40 haircuts a day and you had to wait an hour and a half. So, you know, you didn't like it, go to the cheaper one. I didn't care. And so when this market is different, because if you're using Xactimate, I know the old rebel things, yeah, just charge. You wouldn't get away with the way their attitude for 5 minutes in my town. I'd like everybody to implement that in my town so I can be the only
Yeah.
one left. But that was probably the biggest surprise. And then with that, there is these contracts that are made, and so then there's these numbers that these guys get, and then they start just getting fed this work, and so then they don't have to step up even to that what I consider a lower rate than what it should be. They don't they just kind of like, this is great, and they never have to become a really good company. They just can
They
exist
don't
and
have to
get
compete
fed
for the business now, right?
yeah,
They
that's
don't
right.
have to do quality. They don't have to provide customer service. Sure. Yeah.
And because they're called preferred, there's a twist in that a lot of times that oh, they're better. And so to try to educate that out, or we get a lot of adjusters that then like really push back against us. Like they go to homes and try to talk them out. And we've sit in lawsuits, we have notarized, and at the end of the day, it's never made a difference other than I think we're winning because of who we are as a company. But
Sure.
that stuff I've never fought with before. I've never had to like, what do you mean this company just gets fed and you try to push them even though I know what they're doing? That just is
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Yeah, and I think for me, I really rail against that in a lot of cases, and I think part of that's faith based for me because I think there's an ethical conflict there.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't that doesn't work in my head and how the world's supposed to work. So I
no,
struggle with any of that.
yeah.
Is there anything you wish you had known before you got into restoration?
I was lucky because I had already owned several businesses. So I was very fortunate that when I had two guys, it was me. So there's three of us. I hired Clark Brown for more money than I had to do. I didn't have the money to do that. And I hired him and I brought him in, and he was able to look me in the face and say, "You need an ops manager." And I'm going, I can't afford me, let alone an ops manager. And by trusting what he had to tell me, like, you are not that guy. You're a visionary and you're not that guy. And so early on, I hired a guy for more money than we were taking to get him there. He implemented Job-Dox. He implemented all the things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do. And so, but I was at a different position too. I would like to say that, I'd owned several businesses, so it wasn't like grinding it out, but it was grinding out. We pretty started pretty fresh with that, but I trusted kind of the process of some of the guys that were just way smarter than me. And it's not even hard to find,
Yeah, me too.
for me.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're always on the podcast. Like everybody
Yeah.
that gets him.
Yeah, that's right. And then guys like Nick, over at Faithful
Yeah,
Restoration, Lambert.
sure.
I don't know. He has that fire. I mean, he was having that the fire school there. And so we went over there, and then I become friends with him, and then I could reach out to these guys and just say, "Hey, man, what did you do here? What did you do there?" And so I think early on, like even before, I would wish that I understood all these guys that have made it had help. I always thought they were smarter than me. I always thought they were like, and it's like, no, they've hired consultants, they've hired people that to fill that gap of things they didn't know how to do. And I wish that I would have trusted letting go of some of those things that I was going to be everything, because you look at these businesses that are doing $50 million or $10 million, or back then, I mean, if they were doing $1 million back 30 years ago, I mean, they were like, oh my lands, that guy's everything. And you're like, man, you find out that all of them, and now there's more help, I mean, than ever
Sure,
before.
sure.
But
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 I
I
agree
wished I
with
would
that,
have
right?
known that.
Like even for us, right? Like we still have consultants, we hire coaches, we hire guidance because that's what's
Hmm.
going to help us. Because there are things that we can try and think that's the right thing, and it just doesn't seem to work. And it's like, well, why? I mean, I think that's great, right? Like Clark is a spectacular consultant, an
Yep.
advisor to help small, I mean, just restoration companies kind of figure it out and get. I mean, he's a processes guy too. Like
Yep.
he can help make things happen, and he's created his own little platform to do that with and tools
Yep.
to make that work. And I think that's great. And we love Clark. I think he's
Oh, and he's such a humble, I mean, for a guy that really wouldn't have, I mean, he's not, I mean, Grant Cardone, I
yeah,
mean, I actually have gone to a couple events, speaking events that Grant was a part of, and he showed up and he demands a stage, and he's different than my personality. And Clark is just and I'm thankful that that's who God put me with. And then I trusted the like process.
sure, it's great. No, that's great. Okay, so two things. One is any last piece of advice that you would give to an entrepreneur jumping into a space for home service or whatever they're going to do. What would be the biggest piece of advice you would want to share with them right now?
I would say that find out the things that people love when you come in there. Like, I had a furnace put in, they put carpet protect down on the stairs, and I'd never seen that before. So we implemented that everywhere we go in a house. Learn those things and be a kind of a student of the good stuff, and then just really work towards that. I say if you can bring your faith into it and have a purpose beyond just your business. Some of those things that are biblical will just serve you well. I mean, you can go and go, man, this isn't as big a deal as what my heart says it is, because of my faith and because of the hope in that. But yeah, I would be a student, and then once you arrived and things are looking pretty good, don't give up on that standard, because a lot of people then get away from that. And I was fortunate enough to train the guys, and then that mission is carried on. I mean, they're passionate about helping people. They're passionate, and so they get to do that. Does it look different sometimes when I'm there or when I'm not there? I'm sure it does. I mean, but the underlining tone of it is they are capable of doing that, but it takes a lot of work to pour into these guys and let them fail. That's another thing. My guy in Casper is more opt to, I don't want to see anybody fail. And I just keep reminding him, and he's almost 60. I said, how'd you learn? You remember when you would come to work and you would ask me a million questions and then it might be right, might be wrong. But I said, how did you learn? By screwing it up. How did I learn? By screwing it up. So that would be the other thing, is just understand that if you want good people to run your business that can think on themselves, let them screw up.
Yeah.
As hard
Well,
as
it's
it is.
interesting that you say that. One of the things that we say around here is like our entire industry is built around things not going the way they were supposed to. If
Right.
everything went the way it was supposed to, we wouldn't have a
Right.
career. So
Right. Yeah.
that stuff is going to happen.
Yep.
And the goal is that it's not, more detrimental than what we're going to be able to resolve. And we run into things that are like, but
Yeah.
we try to make sure the guys know that, like, I would rather you make an aggressive mistake than, not.
Yeah.
And we learn
That's
from
right.
those things and we kind of navigate that stuff together. And it's my father had a home service business in the HVAC air quality space, grew up plumbing around all of the service industry stuff. And his mentality was that he needed to be able to touch everything that was going on. And
Right.
I've said on the podcast before, and at one point he's like, well, I mean, but the reality is I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from
Sure.
the fact that you had to touch everything. And I knew very quickly that we weren't going to be able to grow and do anything that we needed to do if I had to touch everything. And I think the
Right.
reality for me at this point, Chad, is that the product is probably better when I'm not there anymore.
Right. Right.
I mean, it follows, we implemented processes, we put processes in place, and I would have a tendency to not follow the process exactly the way
Yep.
it's been implemented. And things are just like, I love to be able to go talk to the customers and do those things
Yeah.
and make it work. But truthfully, the team probably does it better than I do it
Yep.
at this point.
Absolutely.
And that's what's great, right? That's a great way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last
My
thing for
guys, I went on a job yesterday. I didn't
yeah,
have them sign all the paperwork on
yeah.
Job-Docs.
See,
And I'm
you
like,
suck
and
too,
my
just like
guys
me.
never. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, hey, I said, just understand you're getting the B team. I haven't even opened this app other than to look for the tasks and stuff like that, or just look at jobs and pictures and stuff. So I haven't been on a job off and on. So I'm like, my guys are all on the fire at our other location. And so you're getting the B team today. But because I feel the same way, man. My guys are
Yeah, so much better at
outstanding.
all that and efficient and all
Yeah.
those things. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, so the last thing for me is I
Yep.
think we all need a dad joke that we can tell or share somewhere. So what do you got?
So I don't do jokes. So that's so
Oh, the
I can
comedy
tell
isn't
you,
jokes.
yeah, well, so my kind of comedy, so I'll just tell you a couple things that, like, when I was learning to read the room. So I talk about being a class clown, and it's hard to set this stuff up because people always ask, tell me something. But so I remember being in detention, no cameras around back then and stuff. And it used to be like a thing, like if you could get away with something in detention, then you've made it. So I spit this spit wad on the chalkboard. And this Mrs. Ward goes, what in the world are you doing, Chad? And I said, Kimmy did it. Well, Kimmy was the other girl in class. I didn't know, or the other one in detention, that was her daughter. And she says that Kimmy didn't do that. That's my daughter. She's just waiting for the detention to get over. And I was kind of like, I got to learn to read the room. Another thing is my mom always gets mad at me because I did a video series a while back and I sent it to my family and I said, what do you guys think of this? And my mom calls me and says, were you arrested? And I go, no, mom, I wasn't arrested. So you just stand up there and lie? And I like, mom. So I do a disclaimer to everything, like, hey, just in case you didn't know how comedy works, like my own mother, I go ahead and there's things that are exaggerated, but I have this spot on my leg. So I just get through this. I'm in Arizona and I'm at my grandma's house and my grandma and aunt live together. My grandma's 102. My aunt's like 83. And so I'm over there and my grandma goes, what happened to your leg? Because I've got this bruise that hasn't gone away for a long time. And I have had it checked. Everything's fine. But she goes, what happened to your leg? I says, Grandma, it's just a birthmark. And she was fine with that, went back. Well, my aunt, she's staring me down. And she's like, that's not a birthmark. And I go, how do you know? She goes, Chad, I've known you my whole life, and that's not a birthmark. I go, really though, can you trust your memory at your age? And so I go back and I go to my parents' house and my mom hears about this because my aunt called and says, I can't believe Chad just lying. My mom's like, so you're over there just lying about that being a birthmark? And I says, I thought you only did that for comedy. I says, Mom, I was laughing inside the whole time. I mean, this was killing me. And my mom's like, and I says, plus it's a birthmark. And so she's like, that's not a birthmark. I gave birth to you. That's not a birthmark. And Mom, can you really trust your memory at your age? And my mom always is adamant. She's 76, and she's always adamant that she's on the upper end of middle aged. I was like, you're old, and I call her old all the time. She says, no, I'm not. I said, ask any 20-year old.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
old, and you twist it however you want. But that's the kind of the comedy is just this real life stories, so they're not the
Storytelling
yeah
comedy, reading a room,
yeah 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 yeah
grabbing attention. That's so funny. Well, man, it's been great having you on, and I really appreciate
yeah.
it.
Thank you.
I look forward to chatting with you again soon. And if you need anything from us, obviously, we're available. Where to find
Yeah,
us?
Lacey's great.
Awesome.
We bug that girl whenever
All the time.
we have to, and she's very responsive, and so
Yeah.
very pleased with
Well,
the program. And can I tell everybody you can cut this, but I can tell you that that first ops manager, every time a new software company called and something didn't, like they sold him on something that we don't even use, like my iPhone. I use it for calling and texting and Facebook. But oh, did you know it did this? Did you know it did this? Well, I don't, he didn't even know if Job-Dox did or not, but he's like, okay, so it cost me $1,000 to change over all the data to this. And we tried about five of them. And I can tell you that he was gone during a time that I did Job-Doc, so I had to learn it because it had been running a year or whatever, and I never learned it. He was gone, I had to learn it, and so then he went through all this process because I was letting him be his, hey,
yeah.
it's your deal, and believe me, we went back to Job-Docs as soon as that guy left, and we've been happy with it
I
ever
appreciate that,
since.
bro.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. No, it's a good program. So
Well, thanks
I
for being on,
appreciate
Chad.
you.
It's so
Yeah.
great. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Take
Appreciate
care.
you.
All right, bye.